Good morning, good morning, good morning! Welcome back to Children's Church. I'm so glad to have you here with me. And all this month we've been talking about God is near, and today we're talking about God leads his people. And we're being very literal today. No figurative things here, guys. We're talking about God leading his people in the book of Exodus. So we're in Exodus chapter 13, and we're going to jump in at verse 17, called the route of Exodus, or route of Exodus. Depends on where you're from. Anyway, let's jump right in. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them along the road to the land of the Philistines, even though it was nearby. For God said the people will change their minds and return to Egypt if they face war. So he led the people around toward the Red Sea along the road of the wilderness. And the Israelites left the land of Egypt in battle formation. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, because Joseph had made the Israelites swear a solemn oath, saying, God will certainly come to your aid. Then you must take my bones with you from this place. They set out from Succoth and camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. The Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to lead them on their way during the day, and a pillar of fire to give them light by night, so that they could travel by day or night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night never left its place in front of the people. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, tell the Israelites to turn back and camp in front of Pi-Haroth, between Migdol and the sea. You must camp in front of Baal-Zephon, facing it by the sea. Pharaoh will say to the Israelites, they are wandering around the land in confusion. The wilderness has boxed them in. I will harden Pharaoh's heart so he will pursue them. Then I will receive glory by the means of the Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know I am Yahweh. So the Israelites did this. Now that sounds kind of counterintuitive. But it means that God tricked the Egyptians by having the Israelites do this. But that's not the important bit of that lesson. I just wanted to finish up the chapter for you. So, through all their 40 years in the desert, God led them as a pillar of cloud in the day and a pillar of fire by night. Very literally led them. They followed him through the desert. Now we actually know where the pillar disappeared. And it was in the book of Joshua when they crossed over the river Jordan and went to follow the Lord's plan. For the first time, the pillar of fire and the pillar of cloud disappeared. This was 40 years later. For 40 years, God led them physically, giving them something to follow. And I think that taught them something, because if you remember, the Israelites wandered in the desert because they were too afraid to do what God had told them to do. And he punished them by making them wander for a generation, so that all of those who had been afraid would be gone. And the people who were left were people who had quite literally followed God all their lives. Okay, we're getting a little metaphorical now. But they had followed God all their lives, and they were willing to follow him into something scary. See, this generation followed God out of Egypt because Egypt was worse. But this generation followed God out of the desert and into the promised land, even though it was a fight, because they had followed him all their lives, because it was all they knew. And that's what I think the difference is. When we follow God all our lives, we're willing to follow him when things get difficult. So I think that's part of the reason that God did that. So I want you to remember, he led them by a pillar of cloud during the day and a pillar of fire by night. And yes, you have to do the fingers, otherwise it's not fire. It has to be a pillar of fire. So a pillar of cloud, fluffy. Pillar of fire, crackly. Remember that? Remember, we follow God, and God is near because we're right behind him, following after him, like a pillar of cloud and a pillar of fire. Have a wonderful week, guys. I will see you next week with our last lesson in God is near, except that's very silly because God is always near and all of our lessons mean that, but we're going to leave this theme for the month anyway. See you guys then.